We finally have answers to the identity of two big Lord of the Rings characters. Hooray! The Rings of Power's final episode had quite a few twists and turns, which included answering two big questions. Who is the stranger, and who is Sauron? Though there are a few hanging threads, we have enough to go on. So let's break down those reveals and also look into what could be coming for these two characters in Season 2. So first off, the stranger. The penultimate episode saw him heading off as he felt he was evil and a danger to Nori and the rest of the Harfoots. However, Nori and co soon went running after him as they discovered the Dwellers were after him too. Though in the finale, it's discovered that the Dwellers, though they are seeking the stranger, they don't mean him any harm. They wish to serve him. They say he's none other than Sauron. So there you have it. He's Sauron. Bye for now. Nah, cheap joke, especially seeing as you probably already know the outcome. Apologies. But the Dwellers do believe him to be the Dark Lord and pledge their allegiance to him. They also explain that as his powers begin to emerge more and more, soon he'll come to know more about who he is. The Dwellers then go on to say that the constellation that the stranger has been following will lead him to the far eastern lands of Rhûn, before also revealing how he came to be in Middle-earth, and that it's his destiny to have every being who walks or crawls enslaved to him. As you would expect, this doesn't exactly fill the Raggedy Man with much delight, knowing he's apparently destined to rule with an iron fist. Not long after, Nori and the Harfoot team come across our tall, bearded stranger, but they believe him to be a shape-shifted dweller. From there, we head into a scuffle, which sees Sadok Burrows fatally injured and the rest of the group outnumbered. As you'd expect, this leaves only Nori to save the day by giving the stranger an almighty speech to convince him that he's good and not the evil that he's told that he is. A bit predictable, but of course the stranger comes around, and he uses his power to reduce the Dwellers to dust in no time at all. Well, in not so much of a grim fashion. They actually end up turning into butterflies. So yeah, this guy's pretty alright. Accompanying Nori and the group back to the rest of the Harfoots, the stranger, now a little less confused than before, reveals to his small friend that he must venture off to Rhûn to discover more about himself. Then, now this is a biggie, Nori reveals that the Dwellers call the stranger by another name. That name was Istar. The stranger thinks on this for a moment, before saying that in Nori's tongue, Istar translates as Wise One or Wizard. Okay, so he's definitely one of the wizards. That's good to know. But there's more to come. The Dwellers did realize that the stranger wasn't Sauron, eventually referring to him as the Other. Sauron and the wizards are Maiar of the same order, so he's definitely a wizard of some sort. But there's still more. When it's established that Nori will leave behind her Harfoot family and journey with the stranger to Rhûn, Nori mentions that she doesn't know which way they should go. To this, the stranger says that the air smells sweet, and when in doubt, they must follow their nose. Now, who does this all seem to point towards? None other than Gandalf the Grey, of course. It all very much seems to fit his repertoire from what we know of him in The Hobbit and Lord of the Ring books. It explains his fondness of hobbits, who Harfoots are ancestors of, and it gives an early impression of his origins. Yes, these origins do sway a bit from the traditional origin story of Gandalf, as he isn't supposed to pop up for another age or so. But that's showbiz, kids, and the fans aren't complaining. So from here, where does this leave Nori and the newly formed Gandalf as the show heads into the second season? Obviously, their story will center on discovering who he is and making it safely to Rhûn, of course with a mishap or two along the way. We may even see him come more to grips with his powers now that he has more of the mental capacity to control them. It can also be presumed that Gandalf could bump into a few more wizards on his travels. Dare I say it, could we see how Gandalf and Saruman's friendship kicks off on the show? Now, we move on to the next of the two reveals, the identity of Sauron. This one picks up with Galadriel journeying to the elves with an injured Halbrand, in the hope of healing him after their failed attempt to save the Southlands, now deemed Mordor, from Adar. As she arrives, revealing she didn't venture into the Undying Lands, Elrond and Celebrimbor are quick to save Halbrand from death. In return for saving his life, Halbrand is quick to offer his help to Celebrimbor in the elves' problem of how to save their people with a miniature portion of mithril. Halbrand comes up with the idea of binding the mithril with other alloys in order to amplify its strength. How very kind, Halbrand. Very kind indeed. Suspicious eyebrows should be raised at this point. Happily revealing these findings to the king and Galadriel, Celebrimbor ends up mentioning that this will create great power, not of the flesh, but overflesh. Now, these words have been heard before. When Adar explained to Galadriel what Sauron ultimately sought, Galadriel is quick to push Celebrimbor for what made him say these words, and our worst fears are realized. Those words are not from Celebrimbor. He is quoting them from Halbrand. Galadriel suddenly is keen to look further into the royal family tree of the Southlands, which Halbrand claims to belong to. Heading to a river where Halbrand is, Galadriel confronts him, knowing from the royal lineage scroll that the Southlands have not had a king for over a century, a king who had no heirs. Halbrand's persona then seems to change. He doesn't say it, but we know from what he does say exactly who he is. He is Sauron! What a twist! Galadriel then attacks him, but the now revealed Sauron shows the true level of power he possesses. He sends Galadriel into a vision where she believes she's talking to her brother. From there, once she rejects this and realizes it's a ruse, he sends her into a vision of them both on the boat the day they met. Giving Galadriel and us, the viewers, answers on how he's alive, Sauron mentions how Morgoth's defeat freed him to heal things that he had ruined and fix his past by ruling all of Middle-earth. He even tries to tempt Galadriel to be his queen. Of course, she again rejects his attempt to cloud her judgment. From there, Sauron has enough and casts Galadriel into water before disappearing, never to be seen by Galadriel again. As Galadriel warns Elrond and Celebrimbor that Halbrand won't be seen again, and the Rings of Power are created, we next see Sauron, now in dark and cloaked attire, how fitting, returning to the Southlands. Mordor. So what could our Sauron with a new lease on life be up to when the second season picks up? Well, for sure he's going to be head-to-head with Adar. Though Sauron will probably have to do some proving that he is who he says he is, there's no doubt that he and Adar will be challenging each other for control of the orcs and Mordor. Adar did claim to have killed Sauron, remember, so there's probably still going to be some bad blood between the two. Then there's also the One Ring. Though he was under the guise of Halbrand, Sauron did seem to have good knowledge on what would be needed to create an all-powerful ring. It's likely that the Dark Lord will end up creating his iconic ring that's destined to fall into the hands of Gollum and some unlikely hobbits. So it's a great relief that we got those answers before the season came to a close. But there are still some threads hanging that will be fun to pull on in a year or two when the second season unfolds on Amazon Prime. I know, it's going to be a long wait. Thankfully, one marathon of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies should just about fill the time. What? They're very long movies. What did you think about the reveals of these characters? Do you think there may be more to them? What do you think they could get up to in the second season? Let us know in the comment section below. Anyone else thrown by Sauron having a Northern English accent, by the way? Doesn't exactly scream evil and menacing, does it?